Good evening. Once again, I'm Stephanie Ruhle. The showdown in South Carolina between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley will soon get underway. More IVF providers in Alabama paused treatment after a court ruled that embryos are children, and the Republican case to impeach President Biden suffers a major setback. With 256 days before Election Day, we got a lot going on. So let's bring in our Friday nightcap. It is a great one. John Della Volpe is here, director of polling at the Harvard Kennedy School Institute of Politics and an MSNBC political contributor. Christina Greer joins us, associate professor of political science at Fordham University. Nick Troiano is here, executive director of Unite America, a national group trying to bridge the partisan divide. Good luck. His new book, The Primary Solution, Rescuing Our Democracy from the Fringes, comes out next week. And video creator and podcaster Kyla Scanlon, she is the author of the upcoming book, In This Economy, How Money and Markets Really Work. It is out in April. Okay, there's a lot to cover, but I want to start tonight with that decision out of Alabama that embryos created through IVF are children. The judge who handed down this ruling has supported the idea that American law should be based on Christian ideals. Christina, I want to start with you. However people feel about this decision, what strikes me is that government seems to be creeping closer and closer, deeper and deeper into our private lives, which throughout history, I thought that was the opposite of what Republicans wanted to do.
Absolutely. And as Emily's List has always told us, when we put abortion on the ballot, Democrats win. And so I think that this actually is going to be something that galvanizes women from across the country. You know, many people have been ringing the alarm, especially us on this network, who have said, if you want to take away abortion rights, then it'll trickle down to IVF, it'll trickle down to birth control, and then a myriad of issues will sort of come to the fore. I do think that this is going to be a bridge too far for a lot of women, not just Democrats, independently leaning women, and possibly some weak Republicans who see this as, you know, an overreach by the courts, an overreach by Donald Trump elected right-wing judges.
John, it's trickle down, but it's also confusing messaging. All of a sudden today, Donald Trump is saying, oh, he supports IVF. But how confusing is that for voters, right? This is a life or death issue. And it's hard to even know where Republicans stand or how far they want to go.
Well, we're wondering for a year and a half where the line is. Is it 16 weeks? Is it 8 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? We don't really know. Republicans don't know. Republicans, I don't think Senator Tuberville knew what IVF was when he was asked by your reporter, Dasha Burns, yesterday.
He said he hasn't looked at the bill, and there isn't one.
Right. The bigger issue is the Republicans are creating a generational divide with men and women across the country that is going to be difficult, if not impossible, to heal. I spend a lot of time not just talking about politics with young people, but talking about what their lives are like. The number of young people, women and men, in places like Florida and Texas that I see on a regular basis who say they love their hometown, they love their job, they love their family, but you know what? They might get pregnant one day, want to start a family, and therefore they have to pull up their roots and move to a less red state. It's something that has a much greater effect than even beyond thinking about the election.
Beyond just this abortion issue, there's more and more reporting that Donald Trump is aligning himself with Christian nationalists. For a long, long time, church and state were separated. That seems to be blurring as well.
Yeah, well, I think what we're seeing in general in our politics is the fringes on the far left and far right are getting disproportionate amounts of energy and attention and megaphones, and that's
because they're gaining success.
Well, they are, and our political system right now is designed to amplify that, and that's the real challenge. I think on this issue, though, on IVF in particular, it's not as polarized as it may seem on the surface. You have 80% of pro-life Americans who say that there should not be any restrictions on this. So I'm not sure it's the next right on the chopping block. I think it was a pretty narrow decision that was ruled in Alabama, but it does highlight an issue, for example, that if other legislatures and courts weigh in on this, the fact that our legislators have become so unrepresentative, we're seeing a big gap between what the public thinks and what we're actually seeing in public policy.
Then because it's such a narrow decision, do you agree with Christina that the backlash could end up helping Democrats like it did when Roe v. Wade was first overturned?
Well, it causes a backlash on the overturning of Roe because you had Republicans now needing to find where they stood on this issue on the sort of spectrum. But I haven't heard one Republican come out and say that they support a restriction on IVF. So I don't think it's going to be the political issue that many on the left are seeming to position it as.
Kyla, you're in the econ world. We were talking about this just before the show, and people who are polled, when the pollsters call and they say they don't feel good about the economy, is it just what's in their wallet, or is it the world around them?
I mean, I think this is just another example of voter fatigue. People are really tired and they don't feel like they have actionable ways to fix the issues that they're facing. And so I think people are exhausted in a lot of capacities. And when things like this come up, it's another knock against them.
John, tomorrow, South Carolina, right? It's this big Nikki Haley, Donald Trump showdown. It's her home state. He's so far ahead in the polls. What are you looking out for?
I'm looking out to see if she breaks a third in her home state. That's what I'm looking out for, right? If she can get to 40% in her home state, that's arguably a big win for her. But of course, she's not in this to win South Carolina. She's not in this to win on Super Tuesday. She's in this. We're in New York City. We're thinking about Broadway. I'm thinking about she's the understudy, right, to the main character. And sometimes that understudy, twists an ankle or has laryngitis, perhaps goes to jail, right? And that's what she's around for, right?
Do you agree?
Whenever my students are confused on an exam, I always tell them, start with money and then work your way backwards, right? She wouldn't be in it if donors weren't still allowing her to be in it.
And they sure are. They're excited about her.
Want to support her because they don't know if Donald Trump is going to prison. They don't know of these 91 counts against him if something will catch in one of the 4 jurisdictions that he's facing. So I don't think that she'll do very well tomorrow, but I'm actually looking at demographics. Republican women tend not to vote for women. So does she sort of break into this gender gap that we sometimes talk about in political science? Are younger people more interested in her? Are people of color who are in the Republican Party, are they interested in Nikki Haley? So I want to sort of sift through the demographics of the small percentage of voters that'll actually turn out for her.
When you look at all that donor money backing Nikki Haley and all the money going to groups like No Labels, what does that tell you about where lots of donor dollars are, who those people are and what they want? Because let's be clear, neither No Labels nor Nikki Haley have a clear path at this point.
I think to a large degree it's responsive of this moment, which is that 2/3 of Americans don't want to see a Biden and Trump rematch. And so donors are trying to figure out what are ways to create more competition in the system. Is it within the Republican Party? Is it outside of both political parties? And I think that's important because we should have choices. We're trying to choose the leader of the free world. Why should this be 2 octogenarian candidates that are competing to be the next president? We should have a much more of a flavor of choice in our democracy.
In theory, but isn't the issue, right? I'm sure your students talk about this all the time, but that's not how our system is designed.
And they're not happy with it, by the way, right? They're not happy with it. So when I'm out beyond our campus and talk to young people, they're talking about the constraints they find in this 2-party system and how they don't feel like that's emblematic of the kind of democracy that we all deserve. So that's something, and that's the reason that we see, independent candidates in conspiracy theorists, pulling double digits among younger people and among older people as well.
What do you think?
What do I think about
all of this, that young voter, that middle, not even the young voter, but just that middle voter who feels homeless, that isn't connecting with the 2 candidates, or the uninformed voter, right? So despite the fact that we can tick through all of Joe Biden's accomplishments, you've got massive swaths of people across this country, especially economic accomplishments, and somehow they don't know about them.
Yeah, I mean, Bidenomics is objectively is very successful. But when you tell people that Biden has created a good economy, they're like, no way. And that's,
why? Where does that no way come from?
That's what everybody's trying to figure out. The negative sentiment is improving. People are feeling better about their economic circumstances. But I think it goes back to a structural affordability issue, lack of investment in housing, people feeling they don't have job opportunities, stagnant real wages for a very long time that have not outpaced inflation. And so people are dealing with all of this.
Groceries are damn expensive.
Well, food is now a higher percentage of income, right? Like everything is very expensive. Inflation has been a pressure cooker for the past several years. And so we're asking people to vote for, this idea that the sameness will continue or will go back in time to 2016. And that's just not appealing. I think people want a big change. But when you get on social media, the loudest people have the megaphone and they're going to yell crazy things. And you can't escape that void. And I think a lot of people are extremely frustrated with that.
What could break this? What could break this dysfunctional cycle that we're in?
Letting people vote. I mean, the interesting thing about South Carolina is that it has an open primary. So if you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, you can actually participate. And in 22 states this year, 24 million independents are going to be locked out of that system. So if we want more choice and competition representing more Americans, let's give more Americans the actual right to participate in these taxpayer-funded elections.
Agreed, but we know that elected officials do not want people to participate freely and easily, right? It's sort of that old Chicago adage. It's like, I don't want nobody who nobody sent. It's like, who sent you? Or it's like, if you're an elected official, your job is to get reelected. And when you start having new people come in, or these sort of unknown factors, sometimes it's young people, sometimes it's people of color, they don't have control as to how they would vote. So they're not always eager to make voting easily and accessible. I mean, New York has been very slow to the game. We're just now introducing early voting. We're just now making it sort of easier to have an absentee ballot. For many years, we were on the low end of the scale when it came to partisanship. And it's not just voter apathy, it's also voter fatigue. We ask people to turn out a lot. Now, granted, it's their own democracy, but, this year we'll vote at least twice in New York, at least twice next year, at least twice in 2026 for our governor's race. Next year will be our municipal races. We'll take possibly a quick break in 2027, and then we'll go back to 3 more years of possibly voting twice a year.
And we could spend hours waiting in line to do it in an old, antiquated voting machine.
That's right. When I think about this conversation, I think about misinformation, disinformation, but the lack of information to real voters. Right?
But why is that? We have more information outlets than we ever have before, yet people seem to be uninformed.
I think there's issues from the bottom up as well as the top down. One of the best kept secrets in America today, I think, is the fact that $137 billion of student loan relief, $137 billion, right? 4 million Americans. This is after the Supreme Court struck down Biden's plan. Very, very few people know about this.